This conference will now be recorded.
So biological warfare is one type of terrorism which can be easily done, and it's not even recognized by the public or by the authorities before the damage has occurred. So we never know. There is a suspect that the present pandemic, that is coronavirus pandemic, may be a bioterrorist event. We never know. So because it's not been proved, because there are many things which show that it can be a bioterrorist attack. You can see this Wuhan Institute of Virology, and you can see this is the lab which is just 20 miles away from the market, which where the human seafood market was there, and this is the Wuhan lab that is 20 miles away where the outbreak has occurred. From the outbreak, it has spread to the whole world. Even after so many months, 8 months or 9 months, we are not still stable. Still, the cases are arriving. So many deaths have occurred. So many people have suffered. Economy has suffered. Mental tension is there. Until now, though we know much, every day a new thing we are able to know about the coronavirus. Sometimes even genomic studies have shown that there are some man-made features of the virus, but it's not yet proved, so we can't conclude. But there are doubts. If this is a man-made virus, is it a bioterrorist attack? Which country has done it? What it has done? What actually is this bioterrorism? In fact, this bioterrorism is more dangerous when compared to the normal terrorism, because very cheaply they can release these viral organisms which can destroy not only the human life, which can also destroy the plant life, animal life. Previous also such attacks have occurred, and now presently this is one of the easiest methods to disturb whole world. So we never know, maybe may not be the corona present pandemic is due to the man-made attack. Anyhow, this is the time to know about what actually is bioterrorism and how can we control this bioterrorism. So previous, you can see this message also in 1990s, there was a US mail which contained anthrax virus spores. So pulmonary anthrax as you all know is a zoonotic disease which can cause cutaneous anthrax and other forms of anthrax, but the most dangerous form of anthrax is the pulmonary anthrax, where before you can identify the organism and you give a proper diagnostic treatment, we may lose the patient. So this is also a respiratory virus which pandemic which has caused, and it is easily transmissible from one person to other. Compared to the previous SARS infections, we have found that the present SARS-2 coronavirus COVID-19 is highly communicable. So only we never know that can be a bioterrorist attack. So it's high time that you all have a idea about what is bioterrorism and how can we control the bioterrorist attack. Maybe in the future this such type of attacks are high. When you are sitting in the lab, in the clinic, you are trying to see a patient, whenever there is a high suspicion, immediately we need to alert the authorities. So we'll think about and learn little bit about this bioterrorism. It's a biological attack or a bioterrorism. It's an intentional release of viruses. Intentional. Please remember this intentional release of microorganisms, which may be virus, bacteria, or other germs that can sicken or kill the people, livestock, or crops. So not only the humans are, if it affect the humans, but it can also, there are some previous bioterrorist attacks where they try to destroy the crops, commercial crops or animals, so that economy of the country comes down. So this is not a new one, but it can also affect the humans, it can affect the lifestyle or livestock or the crops. So please remember that all the three can be included. So history, I've told, it's not a new thing. Roman civilization also speaks about these bioterrorist attack. Feces were thrown into the faces of enemies. The feces contain some parasitic organisms or some bacterial organisms, and that all led to the diseases and destruction of the enemies. This early version of biological terrorism was used to destroy the enemy forces. It continued into the 14th century also. The use of disease as a weapon in the history exhibited a lack of control aggressors had over their own biological weapons. So bioterrorism timeline little bit, though if we go into the history in detail, we need to discuss a lot about it. But I just want to touch the history because without history we need to we shouldn't go to the main part. So sixth, as I have told that Roman civilization had a bioterrorist attack started there. It dates back to Roman civilization. Apart from that, 6th century BC, you can see poisons from the plants were used to contaminate the drinking water and bathing wells of the enemies with the fungus Claviceps purpurae, that is ray ergot. So poisoning of the water, drinking water and bathing wells were done. This also was done later. 5th century BC, you can see to conquer South America, natives were given gifts and clothing laden with virus. So the gifts also contain the microorganism, they itself can cause the damage. So apart from that, history also speaks about hurling of the dead bodies. Plague is one of the worst disease which pandemics also it faced, which the world has faced or the humankind have faced. It is also called as Black Death, hurling of dead bodies of plague victims over the walls of the city of Kaffa by the Tartar army in 1346. Apart from that, spreading of smallpox by contaminated blankets by British to French in 1767. Even smallpox is also very dangerous and it is very tiring and bad disease which the humankind have faced, but luckily because of the vaccination which was started early in the 19th century, we are free of smallpox. So next question you may ask, if the smallpox, we don't have smallpox, is it necessary to learn about smallpox? Yes, we need to necessary, because in the whole world 2 or 3 countries which are keeping up legally 2 or 3 countries have been given permission to keep up the smallpox virus for the further studies in the laboratory, but illegally there is a news that many other countries are having the smallpox virus prototype, so that maybe in the future they may use that as a bioterrorist agent. Of course, the Bioterrorist Global Act has destroyed most of the illegal ones, but still there are some illegal activities which are going on. So this is not a new thing. So things have been, bioterrorist attacks have been from the future, BC, Roman also, in the AD also, recent also. We have maybe the present attack can be a bioterrorist win. Apart from that, World War I and II, you can see in World War I and II also, glandias and anthrax was used for the bioterrorism. 1925 Geneva Protocol came into picture, which bans biological weapons. Again, World War II, you can see anthrax, plague, cholera, and Shigella. All these organisms were used as a bioterrorist agent during the World War II, which weakened the enemy troops, as a result of which they won the war. So these are the other ways. So if we go to the recent history, 1979 accidental release of anthrax spores at Bioweapon Research Center, USSR. 1992 recent letter incidents, and till recently 2001 anthrax attack. You can see to the president the letter was there which contained anthrax spores, but luckily his PA or someone else opened it. No miss, you would have had an attack. And this pulmonary anthrax is a very dangerous one that can immediately cause death also. So identification is one important point. So bioterrorist attack can be of any type and any way. We never know. We should be very conscious about it. So these bioweapons can be either of natural agents, or it may be muted or altered agents. The present SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, they are suspecting this may be an altered agent, a mutant one, which is more powerful, and in fact it's a recombinant one which contains 1 or 2 viruses, I mean genes of 1 or 2 viruses. So only it has such a varied presentation. Till now, even after 9 or 10 months, maybe in last December, the first outbreak which have been announced by the China, but till now still we are not clear about its pathogenesis, neither its treatment, neither its behavior. Sometimes it's behaving very mild, in some others it is behaving in a very bad manner. In fact, some initial studies showed that one attack can be protective for a longer time, but now present studies are showing that secondary attack, some people it's very mild, secondary attack may be very dangerous, can cause death also. Why some people cytokine release is there, cytokine storm is there, why some people it's very calm, nobody knows. In fact, post COVID complications are also there, that is becoming a different subject. Some are speaking about cardiac complications, some are speaking of neurological complications, we never know. Is it one respiratory virus that dangerous, or is it a mutated form that we are not able to identify it? We never know. So mutated or altered agents may be due to increased virulence, or maybe due to drug resistance, or due to communicability. You can see this present COVID is highly communicable and mortality is also high. Biological chemical weapon. What is the definition of biological chemical weapon? Is produced by cultivating in an organism and extracting from it the toxic material. Example, botulinum toxin. If we have spoken about in botulinum toxin, it's a bioterrorist attack. In fact, I would like to tell it's the most dangerous one. Very small amount, 0.0001 ml can destroy, or milligrams can destroy the whole world. So this small amount, if you just without knowledge of the other people, opposite person, your of enemies, you just mix up this toxin and you give, it's highly toxic, and once it binds to the neuromuscular system, we cannot revert back. Antitoxin is also not that effective, and it immediately, if it attacks the respiratory system, death is inevitable. So that danger is this toxin. So toxins have been also been used in the olden days or in the history to destroy the enemy troops. So weapons, what are the key features? It should produce high, ideally a bioweapon should produce high morbidity and high mortality in the community, because the purpose is that only. Potential for easy transmission, low infective dose, highly infectious by aerosol, lack of rapid diagnostic facilities, non-availability of effective vaccine globally, potential to cause anxiety, availability of pathogen and feasibility of protection, and environmental stability. Now you think for yourself, the present pandemic, the COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, how many features that this present virus has? Then only you can think it may be a bioterrorist attack. The most thing, the worst is, of course, now we have established the lack of rapid diagnostic facilities and non-availability of effective vaccine, and easy transmission is the one. See, countries like India, the transmission is very fast, which can spread from person to person. You can think that what is the purpose of lockdown? The lockdown purpose is that only, that is to prepare the healthcare facilities to become alert in all these agents. So after that, anyhow, lockdown should be lifted up because of various other difficulties, and we need to control the virus. So what are the advantages of bioterrorism? It is easily available, it is inexpensive, and the most worst part, which even now we are facing, is the panic, fear, and hysteria. You would have seen the mortality rate. Most, of course, though the mortality is due to the virus itself, but some around 20 to 25% are due to the fear and panic that is within the humans, which has been created by this pandemic. So main part which the enemies see is that they create that panic. So because of this fear also, many persons died. So in total, they are causing damage to the enemy troops, easily sitting in their home. What are the disadvantages of bioterrorism? It's a double-edged sword. They want to kill the enemy troops, but sometimes it can damage to themselves only. Also, it may also damage the friendly forces. We never know. So it's a double-edged sword. We never know what will happen. So we should be very careful. What are the targets of biological weapons? I already explained you, not only humans, commercial animals, plants, environmental systems have also been used. In fact, some of the movies also they have shown about this bioterrorism attack. Yesterday when I was trying to watch one movie, I don't remember the name, but anyhow, that movie also they showed about one of the bioterrorist attack on the commercial plants. So that is also not new. So bioweapons can be easily utilized for anything. So mode of transmission can be by air, water, food, person to person transmission. Anything can be there. NBC is the term used for nuclear, biological and chemical weapons. Nuclear chemical attacks immediately, whereas biological manifest after some time. All cause mass destruction. So biological weapons identification is very difficult. See, some of the diseases, if you take the present pandemic only, the symptoms are very common to the common flu or the other one, body pain, fever, nasal discharge and cold. It's such a common thing, especially in a climate like this. It's a very common thing. How can you suspect some other virus? So it takes time before you come to a conclusion that it's a different virus which have been a bioterrorist attack. Whereas nuclear and chemical weapons, immediately you can see the destruction. So what are the evolution of chemical and biological weapons? First, gaseous chemicals like chlorine and phosphogene were used in World War I. In second phase, use of nerve agents, example, carbon cholinesterase inhibitor, beginning of anthrax and plague bombs in World War II. Whereas in the third phase, Vietnam War 1970, use of lethal chemical agents, example, Agent Orange for crop destruction. You can see this enemy planes. They are trying to discharge the Agent Orange or some chemical agents so that it destroy the crop. And the fourth phase coincides with the era of biotechnological revolution, use of genetic engineering. So that only I was telling, everything has its good and bad. Genetic engineering, we thought we are using for a good one, but people are, you can also use it for a wrong ways. You can, they are trying to insert a resistant gene with high virulence, high communicability, whatever it is. So that also can be one of the ones. So genetic engineering technology can be used to destroy and can be used for the bioterrorist agent also. So we are now in the fourth phase where genetic engineering has developed to a longer and to a very wide extent. Maybe we may take after a year or two when we read the genetic sequences when this pandemic ends, and our scientists do read about genetic sequences in detail, then they may come across that these genetic engineering technologies are also very dangerous, especially maybe the present coronavirus is also a genetic engineered one. We never know. So gene-designed organisms used to produce a wide variety of bioweapons, such as organisms producing toxin, organisms with enhanced aerosol and environmental stability, organisms resistant to antibiotics and vaccines, organisms with altered antigenic structure. You see, in all these cases, your treatment varies and control prevention becomes very difficult. So in all, the environmental stability is very high for these viruses. In such cases, you cannot destroy them. So easily you can, more amount of individuals might be affected because antibiotic resistance is there. The routine antibiotics will not be useful and that might be dangerous. You cannot control the infection, as a result of which morbidity and mortality is high. Altered antigenic structure is there, so vaccine preparation becomes difficult. There is a delay in vaccine preparation. See, 100 years back, they took 2 years to prepare a vaccine, took long days to control a pandemic. What has changed, or even after 100 years? Today we have again that bad pandemic we saw after 1918. That was an influenza pandemic. Spanish flu. After that bad pandemic we have seen now only. It took around 2 or 3 years to control that. Now, after 100 years also, the world is so developed. We are launching the rockets and many others, but still, even after 1 year, we have not been successful in the vaccine. Neither we have a detailed part about the COVID-19 pandemic. So maybe we don't know how many days or how many months more to get a vaccine so that we have a good control over the organism. So CDC classification of the categories have been done for this bioterrorist agent. Some of them bioterrorists have been categorized as category A, which are most dangerous one. You can see this pyramid. Category A, which is the most dangerous, whereas category C, as we go down, these are potentially dangerous. So depending upon their morbidity and mortality, the way how they spread and all, these classification have been given by the CDC, which has been followed by worldwide. So high priority agents, organisms that pose risk to the national security because easily disseminated or transmitted from person to person. They have a high mortality rate, potential for major public health impact, public panic and social disruption, require special action for public health preparedness. So all these, if your organism fits into all these features, then it can be categorized into category A. So what are these category A agents which have all these features? Anthrax, that is pulmonary anthrax. You can see this child botulism. Botulism is one more category A1. Plague, which has caused pandemic and devastating disease, I can tell you. Smallpox, tularemia, viral hemorrhagic fevers like Ebola or Marburg. So these are the most dangerous agents which we should remember as a bioterrorist attack. So if these organisms are not present in our area, even if one case should be reported immediately to the public health authorities so that it can be identified whether if it's a bioterrorist agent. So category B, second highest priority organism, moderately easy to disseminate, moderate morbidity rates, low mortality rates, require specific enhancement of CDC's diagnostic capacity and enhanced disease surveillance. So these are the features of the CDC category B. What are category B organisms? You can see food threats like Salmonella and Shigella. You may take Salmonella and Shigella is a very simple organism, but you can, if the organisms are mixed in the drinking water and all, that can easily spread and cause gastroenteritis. In fact, mortality can also be there with Salmonella and Shigella. Glandius disease usually seen in the Burkholderia horses, melioidosis, psittacosis, that is chlamydia, Q fever also you have rickettsial organisms, viral encephalitis, water safety threats like cholera. In fact, cholera also looks very simple. It's the most dangerous one. Typhus fever, that also rickettsial diseases, rickettsial typhi and all. So all these are some of them. I've just given a clue because still there are many agents which fit into these categories, but I've just given a sample so that you should know what actually are the category 2 organisms. Finally, category 3 organisms according to the CDC, the availability, they are easily available, ease of production and dissemination, potential for high morbidity and mortality rates, and major health impact. What are these? Are usually the emerging agents. You can see MDR TB, hantavirus, Nipah virus, yellow fever virus, influenza, SARS virus. See the present pandemic. SARS virus is also one of the bioterrorist agent which has been classified by the CDC as category 3. So 10 deadliest biological weapons in the history which have been used and which cause a devastating destruction previously are, you can see the one Bacillus anthracis which has been used in recently also in 2000 in the mail. So which can be easily see, keeping one mail or gift pack, this is easy. We never know when we open the mail and we are just inhaling the spores unknowingly, and that is causing pulmonary anthrax from one person to another person, easily transmitted. Before you can identify the disease and take a treatment, you would have spread to a large number of people that are called as super spreaders. This because of this one or two super spreaders only, if you can take about this coronavirus, we have such a bad pandemic in India also, because we are thickly populated. because of that easily transmissible from person to person. Apart from that, Clostridium botulinum toxin, smallpox virus, Francisella tularensis, Ebola virus, sixth Escherichia pestis, that is plague, Marburg virus, this is also one of the viral hemorrhagic fever, Bunia virus, this is also viral hemorrhagic fevers, Vibrio cholerae, which causes cholera, ricin, that is also one of the bioterrorist agents. So these are few of the examples which have caused very bad attacks in the olden days, in the previous years. How can you deliver the biological weapon? I told it can be easily transmitted by air and all. That's our mode of transmission. Then enemy troops, how can they travel? How can they deliver this? See, when compared to the chemical weapons or nuclear weapons, delivery is very easy. You can see this plane. They are releasing the affected chicks here, or they can light plane equipped with cough spray or motor vehicle as small as a car cruise the streets of the city emitting a fine spray. Large suitcase or backpack disperse biological weapons. You can see this also chain of food. So these might contain the biological weapon, and that is easily released here, and that is so they can use in the form of rockets also. You can see here they can, you can, this is a drone, the cursor which I am showing, this is a drone, and this drone is releasing the biological weapons, which may be virus, bacteria, whatever it is, onto the crops so that it can destroy the crops. Okay, you can umbrella, remote control devices, robotic delivery can be there. You can see this is US made. Precise perfume atomizer can also do, and this you can one umbrella shaped device. Umbrella weapon consists of projectile disguise of an umbrella. See, it's looking like an umbrella, but it has a projectile device. When you are moving on to it, it can release the biological weapons. So all these are only few things which I have explained. It can be easily released into the environment by various methods. Maybe newer technology, newer things can come into the picture. So epidemiological clues of biological weapons or bioterrorist attack. If you see presence of a large, this is very important. You need to be alert, because most of the time, if we miss the diagnosis at this point of time, we may miss. And unlike your nuclear or chemical weapons, where the army forces are the first persons who come into the picture, here biological weapons, medical persons, medical laboratory workers, and doctors are the ones who come into the picture for the initial week. So presence of a large epidemic with a similar disease or syndrome, many cases of unexplained disease or death, more severe disease than usually expected for a specific pathogen, failure to respond to the normal standard therapy, unusual routes of exposure for a pathogen, inhalation routes for diseases that normally occur by other routes. A disease unusual for a given geographic area or transmission season. You can see present the coronavirus also, though all of us are aware that it's a respiratory virus. But in some individuals, you can see severe gastrointestinal symptoms. In fact, some studies have shown that they lack respiratory symptoms, and they have more of gastrointestinal systems. And those individuals that present with gastrointestinal symptoms have a severe morbidity and mortality. So we never know. So inhalation route for the diseases that normally occur by other exposures. So route also can be changed. In all these cases, you need to suspect a bioterrorist attack and immediately alert the experts. Epidemiological clues of biological weapon or terrorist attack. If you go on continuing, disease transmitted by a vector in the local area, a single case of a disease by an uncommon agent like smallpox and some hemorrhagic fevers, disease unusual for that age group, unusual strains or variants of or AMR patterns different from those circulating, disease outbreak with zoonotic impact. So all these cases you may suspect a biological warfare. Bioterrorism is different because medical and public health system usually detect the bioterrorism. A delay is likely between the release of agents and knowledge that occurrences. See, one delay is Once the bioterrorist attack is there, the virus or the microbial agent is released into the environment, immediately they may not manifest with the symptoms. Of course, some toxins like botulinum toxin, they immediately manifest, but most of the time there is an incubation period for the microorganisms which we have studied. So this incubation period also is a delay where the diagnosis does not occur, and once after that attack to the other people, that also may take some time. During this time, this is a delay where our we don't identify the bioterrorist attack. A delay is likely between the release of agent and knowledge that occurrence of bioterrorist attack, maybe a week, maybe 10 days, 15 days, or 1 month also. Similar, if you take the present example only, there are reports that there was an SARS-CoV attack in September or October only in China, but that was released only in the December to the whole world, or revealed to the whole world only in the December. Maybe they took time to diagnose, or maybe be some other reason, we never know. The short window of opportunity exists between the first cases and the second wave. Public health officials must determine an attack has occurred, identify organism, and prevent more casualties. How can we prevent this? So apart from, if you know this, prevention is very important. Familiarize medical staff with the agents, incorporate into disaster plan, contacts to obtain stockpile supplies, security preparations. If suspect bioterrorism, terrorist disease, inform public health professionals immediately, medical professionals back to school, and high alert. So back to school, why? Because new diseases are there, new laboratory tests, new treatment plan, everything will be new. So of course, medical doctors are always school children only. We need to study for our life to keep ourselves updated. Not that I have read everything, I am a great person, I have passed up my MBBS with a gold medal and no need to study. No, we need to keep our update till we are practicing till the end of our life. Till the last minute of our life, we need to keep ourselves updated. Preparedness, develop full international cooperation, which is very important in dealing with this problem. Educate likely target populations, stockpile biological weapons, fighting supplies, particularly the medical ones. Of course, the last one, stockpile biological weapon fighting supplies, is not that easy because we never know what attack will be there. In generally we can do it. So awareness and preparedness are the two things which is very important, because awareness only helps us to identify the bioterrorist attack at the earlier stages. So US government passed Bioterrorism Act, in to strengthen the bio defense. Emergency preparedness and response network aims at prevention of bioterrorist attack, detection of bioweapons with efficient lab systems with newer diagnostic tests, quick relief during bioterrorism attack. In India, such network is still lacking. Maybe in future, after this bad pandemic, we may come out with such acts. So these things which I felt interesting: pillars of bioterrorism response, bioterrorism threat. You can see risk assessment, risk management, and risk communication are the three which you need to keep. Risk assessment, monitoring, potential production, possible dissemination, surveillance is required, detection, access limitation, risk management, preparedness, simulation, response, and stockpiling, prevention, pre and post exposure prophylaxis, decontamination, risk communication, public health policy, emergency plans, resources, medical countermeasures, vaccines. So all these are, of course, everything research. If there is a research only, we can identify the new things, we can try to control the new diseases. So if you take globally, there are some plans to control the bioterrorism. Maybe in future we can expect more of it. 1925 Geneva Protocol came into the picture. 1972 Biological Weapons Convention was signed by 103 nations. 1975 Geneva Conventions ratified. You can see the labs also need to be updated to identify the bioterrorist attack. Without the confirmation, just on the clinical basis or radiological basis, we cannot come to the diagnosis. So laboratory confirmation is the must to confirm a bioterrorist attack. You can see Sentinel labs recognize and rule out refer, whereas reference lab confirmatory testing will be there. National labs definitive characterization will be there. So these are the pyramid, how it goes on for the labs also. Every lab has its own duty and responsibility at each level, so that we can accomplish for the good of the society, identify the bioterrorist attack at the earliest and try to control it and try to alert the higher authorities, so that here usually the soldiers, army people are the one who protect us from the dangers at the borders. But now here medical soldiers in the bioterrorist attacks, medical soldiers are the one who are life saving. All the healthcare workers come into that, especially the doctors are the frontline workers, because need to identify the bioterrorist attack. The most difficult part of bioterrorism is identification. Before we can identify the bioterrorism attack, we would have done most of the damage. So identification is very necessary. Information, don't trust all. Lot of information will be shared on your electronic media. Not all information is correct. Take up only the good correct information from the trusted authorities, so that you don't panic yourself, neither you panic your patients or the surrounding people. That is very important. Counseling of the patients is very important. Controlling the panic attacks, avoiding deaths from this panic attack is very important. That can be done only if we are united together as one, whole of the country, whole of the world. Then only we can break this chain of infection and have a control over these pandemics. So this is the one which I was trying to tell about bioterrorism. Maybe in the future you'll know whether the present pandemic is a bioterrorist attack or it was just a normal virus which has outbroken. So WHO alertness at the WHO level is also very important. The present pandemic speaks of that. Though these attacks, such attacks occurred in the previous years, WHO never failed. The present attack, there is a few things about WHO also that it couldn't recognize at the early stage, but we never know all. There is a confusion, too much of things. Maybe things might, we may require some more time to clear up the things. Anyhow, this is bioterrorism. Whenever, not only in the second year about microbiology, whenever tomorrow you become a clinician or a specialist, whatever field you are there, you are a doctor, you are a medical person, you need to be alert about this bioterrorism. Please remember the bioterrorism, when, how to suspect and how to prevent the bioterrorism attack. Maybe in the future such attacks might be more when compared to the nuclear and chemical weapons. So be alert as a doctor. It's a responsibility on your side to be safe. So keep yourself updated, read properly, keep yourself safe and your family safe. Thank you.